G'day, guys. Joined today by Mr. Stocker himself. Unfortunately, Muff was called out to some baby duties, which is absolutely fair and reasonable, but it left a big gap in the intro and outro.
As you'll soon hear.
It's very humbled to be joined by an absolute superstar human being, ex-professional footballer, Alex Woodward.
Yeah, brilliant chat. One of those chats you come out of, with a smile on your face, but also to look at a guy who's just got the best attitude, super positive, but just resilience personified. To do 5 ACLs and come back from each of those, and then some of his other challenges in life, and understand how someone can go through those and be the same bloke that he is. Inspiring, yes, but I think more than anything, a real show of character for him. So brilliant chat, and we hope you enjoy.
Big time. Hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoy Stock's Gen Z purple shirt.
This is the Men of Words podcast, where the little conversations can make the biggest differences.
Traditionally speaking, Muff is the one that kicks off these conversations. He's very good at openers and closers.
Yeah.
So we've got big shoes to fill, Stocks. You've got a good sized foot on you. What are they, 13?
12.
Oh, that was not a bad guess.
Yeah.
Solid. Big shoes. Anyway.
Solid size.
What are you rocking?
I'm a
10s?
I'm a 10.
Yeah, welcome.
There you go.
Yeah.
Why do we start so weird?
10 club.
10?
Are you a 10?
10.
Yeah.
I've
And the
started
same
going
shoes.
to 10 and a half recently, just for a little bit of width.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, good call. Well, I like the grey, actually. I had a pair of off-white, like the yellowy.
These are just dirty, mate.
Nah. Good, I like it. The off-white, I tore shreds through them. I just hammered them. Anyway, welcome to the Men of Words podcast. True talk.
Great start. Love it.
Stocks, we're one man down in this conversation, but we are one man up in the guest world as well. We joined today by someone we've probably been talking for a little while, trying to negotiate a way around getting you on board. I think we spoke early days through Rook Hellier, through Jackie Boy.
Yep. Great man.
He reached out to you, and then, COVID happened and things like that. So we've been in the pipeline for a long time, but very excited to have Alex Woodward joining us today, Stocks.
Oh, cannot wait. I think Alex's name, for me anyway, is synonymous with just a guy who came again. Awesome story of resilience. Really excited to have a chat with you, mate, and just understand what you were going through, what it looks like now for you. I think from my perspective, and I hope a lot of other people think that your perspective on life, and particularly the challenges and stuff, can be a great way to sort of formulate learnings for everyone else. So super excited to have you on.
Thank you. Very nice introduction. So can't wait to get started, mate.
Good start. We love that. Muff, keep that in mind. Just before we hit record, we were having a quick little chat about maybe some other sporting prowess that you had.
Yeah.
Stocks, you might have a question that you would like to dive into.
I do. It centers around your choice between tennis and footy, which from what I understand, you were a really a gun tennis player in your junior career, and a little bit about the aggression behind it, if you want to elaborate.
So I juggled 2 sports for most of my, I suppose, childhood. Tried baseball, didn't really give cricket a go. Sort of found a nice sport in tennis to juggle with footy as a kid. So obviously footy was a winter sport. Didn't really have too much to do in the summer. So my family really backed me with that for, I would say, maybe 6 to 8 years. And then probably at 16, I had to make a choice between tennis or footy, with one career path that I really wanted to delve into. My family weren't really well off or anything like that. So they were forking out all of the expenditure out of their own pocket after working night shift and juggling a couple of jobs themselves. So in the end, I made the decision pretty easy for them. I ended up breaking quite a few rackets when I started hitting 15, 16. Look, I wouldn't say I was a gun. I was up against some really, really good players. And I think I just started to understand that maybe I'm just not good enough. So the rackets took most of the abuse. And like I said to you earlier, I think with footy, if there's an error, it seems to be system-based or team-based. when there's an error in tennis, it's all on me and it's got my name all over it. So I didn't really handle that too well.
That's fair enough. I just was giggling to myself when you know, not laughing at the fact you mentioned your family weren't well off. They were, you know, hustling at night shifts and things like that. And you mentioned that you're a racket smacker. And geez, I would have really loved.
There was one time where Dad bought me this beautiful racket. I reckon it was like a $200 racket. Back then, that's pretty
big money.
expensive.
That's big money.
And it looked really good. And I think I did like a few double faults in a row in this big tournament. And fuck that, I gave it to that racket really.
Like Marcus Baghdadis gave it.
No, maybe.
Bring him back.
Well, he was multiple rackets.
Don't
wasn't
bring
he?
him back. He was.
I loved him.
That was awful for
He
the
was
spirit.
very
That
good.
was true. That's
Yeah, so that was probably the turning point. Dad took me off the court and I didn't really see a tennis racket again after that.
fair enough.
It's not a bad segue because I think like the way we like to run these things is often get an understanding of how you grew up and I know a little bit of the hardship, but I don't know the full story. And I think if you can describe it the best way you know how, like how you grew up, maybe some experiences that formulated, maybe not resilience straight away, but you know, set you up to have the life that you have had so far.
Yeah, I suppose my upbringing is a little bit unorthodox in that I was very comfortable being on my own quite early. My family moved around a little bit. I grew up actually when I was quite small in the Philippines. My mum is from there. She has a house over there. So I actually grew up in the rice fields in these huts when I was really young, and then we went over to Melbourne to be a family with my dad, who was a cab driver at the time, making money doing night shift. So it was a very different sort of upbringing. And then we settled in Melbourne after we moved around to a few schools. But my safe haven was always, doing my own thing, probably why I liked tennis to begin with. But Dad was really passionate about footy, and that's something that I have a really strong bond with Dad, still to this day. He was from Fremantle, so as a kid growing up, I was the only one wearing purple. So I was made fun of a little bit, but I still stuck true to him. But yeah, so I moved out of home actually, and I'm from a split family. So my parents split up after about 14 years, which is very normal. They gave it a good crack, so I don't hold them against that. But yeah, I actually moved out of home when I was 15. So I did VCE, year 11, year 12 in an apartment by myself. So I'd go to school, then come home to an apartment by myself. Dad helped me pay rent for that. I had a part-time job as a receptionist at a real estate agency on the weekends. So rent wasn't too expensive back then, but I learnt to grow up pretty quickly. So I remember telling footy clubs and stuff at interviews, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm actually living on my own, and they were pretty amazed by that. But it was very much something that I was comfortable with. I find it fascinating, the transition from that. I'm sure that we'll delve into it, but I obviously spent years in rehab by myself a lot of the time, and that was something I was pretty comfortable with, embraced, and didn't really look down upon too much.
I don't know where to start in.
Yeah, that
coming back
hit me
to
for
that.
6.
There's a lot in there that I wanted. No,
I think I went everywhere.
This is
with that
brilliant
answer.
though. Like this is, from the outside looking in, having no perspective of how the football world works internally, like you guys do. Obviously, I know there's like the interview phase of before you get picked up by clubs. They sit you down and ask you. I've heard that they ask you some pretty random questions and whatnot. But straight away, for me, putting myself in that scenario and maybe being an interviewer, if I was to sit down and hear you tell me that you grew up on the rice fields in the Philippines, you learnt to integrate into a completely different society as a kid, jumped around schools, like there's so many boxes that are just going superstar, like genuine. I mean that in the nicest way, in terms of that you are proving yourself as a kid time and time again. And then to say that you're living on your own in an apartment at arguably the most difficult period of time in a high school student's life, in terms of the demands of, one, you're pursuing a football career, and two, if you were going to have a crack at your VCE as well. There's so much on there that it just blew me away straight away.
Thanks, mate.
That's insane.
Yeah, it was a lot, and as Stock would know, there's TAC commitments on top of that.
Yeah.
Probably a really important time as well. You're trying to get drafted.
Yeah.
And my dad worked night shift, so and my mum didn't get home until late after school. So a lot of the time I was having to catch the bus home. So I went to Masnod College, catch the bus home, jump on the train, or try and somehow catch a lift to Sandringham Dragons, Trevor Barker Oval. Then afterwards I'd be catching a train home pretty late at night, but I'll be doing my homework on the train. You just got to manage,
Yeah.
I think we look back now. I look back now. I'm like, I don't know how. Like I did a lot of those things because I went to an ACC school, so we played footy on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
So
Hey, ACC represent. I'm a St. Bees boy. It was
but the footy schedule was
strange.
Yeah, so if there was TAC Tuesday or like recovery Monday, training Tuesday, there's school training on some Tuesdays, game on a Wednesday, training Thursday, prep Friday, play Saturday. Yeah. It's just a full schedule, and then somehow you got to find some downtime and spend time with your family as a kid.
Well, the other thing I heard as well is you were one of those rare cases. You were playing and living sort of Noble Park area, and travelling to Sandy.
Yeah, that's right.
Which is
a hike.
Yeah, it's a trek to. And what was TAC then? Like 3 nights a week or something like that?
Yeah. It's good. It's interesting that you brought that up. So all my teammates, I played at Noble Park Junior Footy Club, obviously, and like I said, my parents were split. So my mum actually lived in Springvale, which was the next suburb over. And I had her address on all my documents and all that sort of stuff. So all my letters are getting sent to her address. So because I've put that postcode down at some sort of registration period, I qualified for the Dragons when really like Stingrays was just
Well,
that was
3K down the road.
Something else that surprised me was that you would trekking. Yeah. Stingrays would have been so convenient.
But like full circle moment with new environment. I don't know anyone at the Dragons. Don't know any of those faces, but I was very comfortable. I'm like, new challenge. See if I can sort of mix it with these guys.
Yeah.
Rather than trying to prove myself against players that I sort of grew up with. Sort of took it in my stride, which was, in the end, probably a really positive thing for my career. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe we'll dive into a little bit of the footy stuff first and then dive into the bigger picture again after it. But you are part of probably one of the most unlucky clubs in the system in that you've had not one or two knee recos. What are you, 5 or 6? Five
on the right, yeah.
5 on the same knee.
My left is my good one.
Yeah, left is a good one. And you're also part of another club in the fact of being, delisted a couple of times yourself as well. So, you speak to some players that have finished up and they're like, I'm part of the ACL club, or I'm part of the delisting club.
Yeah.
Not
represent.
You guys are sitting very comfortable now. But you're part of quite an unlucky career when you look at it on that side of things.
Yeah.
Would you say there is a lot of luck and positivity in your career looking back on it now as well? Or are you of the mindset you gave it a crack, it was unlucky, it wasn't?
Yeah. I think I'm a bit funny with luck in general. I suppose right place.
I mean, you work hard, obviously,
right place, right time. And a lot of all my injuries in a way was unlucky, but I wouldn't really change the journey at all. I'm of the mindset I'm very, very grateful, very privileged to have been a footballer. I had a lot against me in terms of even little things like my height. That was a really big factor against me getting drafted and all that sort of stuff. I wasn't the fittest bloke at all. I got lapped at draft camp by Bradley Hill. So that was an awful experience.
I was going to say, probably another club.
So I can just picture all the recruiters in the stand going, okay, not that guy.
Yeah.
But again, I wouldn't necessarily change any of the challenges. I see them as challenges, opportunities to grow. And that might be overly optimistic and really cliche, but I've sort of taken that approach in life in general. So, unlucky in a way that wrong place, wrong time on the footy field. There were moments there where I have flashbacks still to this day. It's like, if I took a step that way, I reckon I'd still be playing football. You know what I mean? But then I tried to take on one too many and my knee gives way. So, but in saying that, I'm in a pretty good place now with my business and the opportunities that I gained from football outside of the football field. We get massive opportunities to network, meet really good people, strengthen your character. Like my pay back then wasn't anything great, but I sort of learnt how to handle that pretty well as well. So my transition post rehab into delisting clubs was pretty seamless, really. So still really grateful and moving forward in life.
I think there's like a clear perspective difference between those that reach an elite level of something and like your Joe Blow like me. Like for me, I've spoken a lot in the past about similar thing, being vertically challenged. Height was always against me. I played rep basketball, rep cricket.
Yeah.
Didn't get rep footy on my list. And that was like the one goal I had. But every time I like had a good game or something, if there was someone in the crowd watching another person, I'd always sit there being like, oh, hopefully they'll, I had a pretty good game there maybe one day as a junior.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up playing with Watsy, so there was always scouts, like from under 12s, there was always scouts at our games.
Yeah.
But the feedback I always got for any sport was you're too short. Yeah. And I took that in perspective-wise, you were like, okay, there's a challenge for me.
Yeah.
For me, it was like, I'm too short. I'll throw that one out. Like, there's a clear perspective difference, I think.
Yeah. I think, like, even speaking to some people close to you who watched you develop as well, though, like what you lacked for in the stuff you couldn't control, like your controllables were, and it's something I'd be pretty keen to unpack, is like whether you think that mindset immediately to just better yourself in, like speaking of Damien Carroll, like your hands were elite, ground balls, etc. Like just every part of your game that you could take care of was taken care of. But did you feel like at the time, and withstanding the challenges you had, I imagine some growth would have come out of it. But at the time, did you just feel like, this is what I can control, and have that innate mindset to just go, I can't do anything about my height, so I'm just going to flog this, and I'm going to flog this. And like a degree of running is also genetic. So, there's an element to that you can't control. Like, was that front of mind, or was it you were just automatically motivated to just get there and show people wrong?
I think that's a good point, Stock. I mean, you touched on the word controllable. I also believe that there's a really strong difference between confidence and arrogance. So even during my time injured, right, and I'd control the things that I was already good at, then I want to be elite at. And then if I was already elite at, then no one else is going to pass me. And that was right through from Dragons, because I didn't play Dragons 16, 17, so I had knee surgery then as well.
Yeah.
So I basically had a bit of a slow start in that TAC sort of journey, but to have that slow start in the AFL journey as well, I still really wanted to focus on what I was good at as a footballer, and mainly that was surrounded by contested footy.
Yeah.
And I had some really good mentors at Hawthorn in Sam Mitchell, Luke Hodge, Brad Sewell, Jordan Lewis, these names that are, Hall of Famers, elite players of our game. I was still very much a student of the game, even though I didn't set foot on an oval for 2 years, basically, because I did back-to-back knees pretty quickly. But I must have been doing something right that the players and the coaches still thought I was worth giving a chance to and keeping on the list, which I was really proud of. But yeah, the motivation factor was pretty seamless for me. I just wanted to be elite at what I was already good at, and then work on my deficiencies as well. So I became a half-decent runner. I think one year I finished top 5 in the 2K, and I never thought I'd do that. And saying that, I stripped all my weight, so there goes being an inside midfielder. So I had to put that weight back on slowly as the season started, and then I sort of tapered with my running with my GPS numbers, and that was okay. But it was all a learning experience. It's really fascinating. I think each time I got injured or had a setback, I was like, okay, well, how can I sort of evolve as a player or be better than what I was when I first got injured? I think sometimes there's a bit of a mentality where, I'm injured, I'm never going to be the same player that I was. You don't necessarily have to be the same player. You can be a completely different player and be a little bit better than what you were before. And again, might be a little bit over optimistic, but if you come back and show the coaches and your teammates that, hey, I can actually do this, and I only used to be able to do this. So if you pigeonhole yourself, even when you're injured, it's probably more so going to have a negative impact on your career, rather than, if you're having a setback and you really open up your mind and your eyes and see what opportunities can come, especially during a time out of the game in this specific sport in football. But you can transition that into life as well, I think.
We talk about inflection points a lot, particularly when we harp on mental health. And I know, like, even we had Dyson Heppel in a couple of weeks ago, and we're speaking about, inflection points in his career. And often they're the earth-shattering, and mind you, like 5 ACLs in, they're probably all earth-shattering. But did you have, like, inflection points where you were thinking, about this kind of stuff, that you could change the athlete you were, or change, who you were trying to be at the football club? Like outside of those kind of, because those points it's pretty easy to reflect. You've got a few days of, solace and silence after surgery or before surgery even, and you've got a lot of, time alone. It's quite easy to go introspective and think about those kinds of things. Like, did you find that you had an ability or a learned ability in the end to just consistently check in and be like, this is what I'm a lead at, remind myself of that? Because I feel like, and the way today's media works, and particularly today's journalism, and I'm not going to get stuck on how much I hate today's journalism, but we talk about weaknesses so much and like bridging the gap to your weaknesses becoming mediocre or whatever it is, but we don't often talk about like your strength is what gets you drafted, or in any profession, your strength is what gets you there.
Yeah.
But I feel like we have so few inflection points or points where we're able to sit back and go like, this is where I'm at, this is where I'm trying to get to, and this is the plan. Sometimes we just float.
Yeah.
I don't know if it felt like that for you between ACLs, or whether you were just like awesome at being present in the moment, being able to think about that stuff.
I think it's really good statement and point that you make there, Stock. I think it was a learning experience for me through each ACL. Definitely some inflection points. I remember my first knee and my second knee, I was really naive in a way. Where I'm like, I've done 10 months perfectly of rehab, and I just sort of, messed it up in this preseason game. So my mindset as a 19-year-old was like, I'll just do that 10 months again. Yeah. And I know that I can come back. When really, physically, your knee's not going to be as strong.
Yeah, you're a step behind.
Yeah, you're a step behind,
up,
and you got to respect it.
Yeah.
So if you keep trying to, I was trying to do this maneuver after my first knee recove that I've never done in my life. I don't know why I did it. Like, I think back, I'm like, why did I do that? But I can't dwell on it too much. But that was a really big learning experience for me in terms of learning about my body a little bit more, respecting it. So once the second knee reco happened, I was like, okay, well, I'm a little bit sore today. And that was like whereas previously I probably pushed through it a little bit more. But there were constant reminders throughout each knee reconstruction where, you do doubt yourself a little bit where, can I get back? Why am I here? Because my teammates just think I'm a professional rehabber. To be honest, I'm getting paid to run circles around an oval. They just see me, first thing in the morning, and then once they're training, I'm sort of pissing off somewhere else. Yeah, it was a really weird relationship that I had with my teammates and coaches for a while. Some of them didn't know how to handle it, and some coaches didn't know how to handle it. And I didn't expect them to be honest, because it was a very different sort of career path to take off on. But there were constant reminders where I might, look back on vision or touch base with family, friends. It's something that's really simple like that. They're a really good touching point in terms of being a reminder and why you got there to begin with. You can reflect on even some life experiences, the challenges that you had when you were younger. If you can get through that, you can sort of get through this. And if it doesn't work out, that's okay, but you can still give it a good crack. So learning to be present in the moment probably happened after the second knee reconstruction. I remembered I matured, even though I was already mature, I matured a lot more after that second one. Not so much in the fact that, 2 in a row, my career is absolutely shot. So I've got to start thinking contingency. It was more that, I'm actually learning a little bit more about how I feel emotionally and physically as well, learning about the body, but more so mentally. I'm like, okay, not every session's going to be 10 out of 10. I can't hammer myself every time. And if I have a shit rehab session every now and then, that's okay. Cop the feedback, go again tomorrow. If I'm not feeling quite well, have a day off. That was the relationship I started to have with the physios and my rehab coordinator, Phil. And they're still some of my best mates today. So they really saw me maturate as a person, as a human. So after those first 2 knee recos, that third season where I was able to debut, I remember getting quite emotional, really getting excited after being presented the jumper, because it was a whole team effort. It wasn't just me that was trying to put myself back together again and be a footballer and be this contested player that I can prove to my teammates. I had all the medical staff like really wanted me to succeed. All my teammates as well. Once they started to understand me as a person, probably the best thing that I did, Stock, I reckon, after my second knee reconstruction, I think we went on a camp to Queensland, and I did a presentation in front of the whole group. Never played a game with any of them yet, but did a presentation in front of the whole group because I was just over the basic question of, how's your knee going? Because every day I'd walk into the club, same question, how's your knee going?
From like 40 different people as well. Hey,
same as yesterday.
Yeah.
Like it's not going to improve
changing?
that much. So I did this presentation in front of the group. I said, look, this is my family. Ask me about them. Like I had little dot points on my mum and my sister and my dad, my dog. These are my passions, NBA, things that I really like. And this is how I'm feeling. When you keep constantly asking me about my knee, I actually am getting frustrated because one, the question's actually just surface level. I don't know if you really care.
Yeah.
Because I know you're trying to do the right thing and I appreciate it, but you asked me that yesterday. So my relationships with my coaches and teammates really grew from that as well. So going back to the day that I debuted, I just remember everyone being really, really excited because they had a really good understanding of who I was as a person. And then they understood the journey of the rehab that I went through as well.
If we can pull it back, like the biggest moment, sort of speaking to Damien a little bit about, I don't want to say what was the worst one, but like doing 2 in a row where you don't grace the field again. And I remember DC describing it, and he just said like a silence fell over the track. And I remember quite clearly Sam Doherty doing his second one in a row. And it was just, I don't know in that moment whether you feel like you're connected to the rest of the teammates because you see the boys are consoling each other because they're flat for you. But the flow-on effect from that is like the loneliness to do it again and know what you're about to go through. Is there, it might be naive to ask, but is there a way you prepared yourself for it or did it differently? Because it's the same with a lot of other things when you're trying to force connection in a group like that, and connection's like a massive part. Cliques are a massive part of football clubs and any workplace really. But like, is there a way you, I don't know, like steeled yourself, white knuckled it or something just to know what you were going into again?
I remember vividly actually that second one. It was like a scene from a movie really.
Yeah.
Like it was a flat out pre-season scratch match, an intra-club, tackling everything. And I was going all right. I was playing centre. I was playing rover in the centre bounce, and I was going all right. And like I said, I did that manoeuvre that I'll never do again. But it was dead silent. Like you could hear the birds chirping. It was just, everyone was just in shock. Probably just heard me having a bit of a cry, getting helped off by the physios. And specifically what happened after that was that I was just inconsolable. And I was okay with that. At the time, it was almost involuntary. I couldn't really control myself. Went to the doctor's room. Hodgie's coming in, saying, "Oh, what's wrong? Like, I've just done my knee." And it's like, I'm trying to talk to my dad on the phone. And Dad's sort of losing it a little bit. It's like, "Oh, you shouldn't have played today. It's 10 months after a as a parent would."
Yeah.
And I remember just giving my phone to Hodgie. I'm like, "You speak to him." I can't believe speak to him. He's not understanding that I'm pretty upset right now.
Yeah.
And then Skipper, he did a pretty bloody good job, handling that moment. But it did take me a little while to calm myself down. I think it maybe took me a week or so. I was really good mates with Mac. Sorry. He's one of my best mates, Max Bailey, who's done 3 knees, I believe. He took me under his wing, right from the start of my career. So I remember him taking me out for a couple of drinks, I think, that weekend. Not that that's the answer, but it was good to know that there was an understanding that, look, there was a long journey ahead.
Yeah.
And there was a respect factor as well from my teammates, knowing that, hey, you've done this 10 months. Look, you can do it again, but we've respected the work that you've put in. We back you to do it again. So I wasn't too hesitant about doing it all over again. I didn't realise I'd have to do it another 3 times.
Yeah.
But I approached the second one, probably more determined, if I made sense. The first one, I had no idea. Second one, I was walking after 2 days surgery. I just knew. I knew what I had to do.
Yeah.
If I can get the swelling down, I can get closer to running, and then I can swim. And then I already knew all these stages in my mind.
Yeah.
And then I slowly was ticking the box off, but then the club had to really pull me back.
Yeah.
Because I was really eager. Like 19-year-old, basically ticked all those boxes 3 times. Like, I want to train with the boys during the finals. Like, that was my goal.
Yeah.
But yeah, they ended up extending the rehab to 15 months, I think. So that was a long one.
Yeah. It's interesting that as well. I mean, being a part of a club that at that time as well, were like dynasty mode, like, they were incredibly successful for a sustained period of time. And it must, I mean, I'm sure you can talk to it as well, but I feel like there would be a lot of frustration, especially considering like when you did get back, you were playing playing VFL and, won the league best and fairest, JJ Liston trophy in the VFL. So you like got back, was that prior to your first or was that after your second?
I was after 2 years out. Yeah.
So like you've proven that you've got back and playing good football.
Yeah.
I mean, the VFL arguably, is the second best league countrywide and winning the best player in that, so you're like, I'm in this successful club environment. I'm playing good footy and then another one.
Yeah.
Not long, and then it's all of a sudden back to square one.
Yeah.
And then 4 and 5, like it's
Yeah,
that's tough.
I would say that third one was most devastating if I had to choose one.
Yeah.
Because I thought I was out of the woods, right? I played a season of footy, had success individually and was able to, be a part of the grand final squad. So I was training that week in front of the big crowds. It was a really good experience. Even that season in general, I started off hurting my AC joint, so I didn't get off the mark quickly at all. But I think I touched base on it before. I was really hell-bent on being a different player rather than that 18-year-old that they drafted. I put in a mountain of work, 25 months of rehab and just repetition of ground balls and clean hands and left foot. I was a completely different player to when I got drafted. I was trimmed down. I just understood the structure, the role that I was playing. My running GPS-wise wasn't that great still, but I knew where to run. I was watching Sam Mitchell Vision every day.
Good book to read, that one.
Yeah,
surely.
amazing mentor. So after that third Rico, that one took me a little while to get over because I thought, okay, then you start having these thoughts of career being over, right? Because after that first season, okay, started that fourth season for me, but second season after the 2 knees, I was playing good footy again. So I was emergency heaps of times. And that was a tough gig. I was travelling emergency, get on a red eye, play VFL the next day. That's a rough gig.
The shittest gig in footy.
But Clarko was really adamant that I needed to change my game again and be a small forward because I was half decent at my marking. But if I was going to be an inside midfielder in this team during an era, well, good luck pushing some of those players out. I was putting pressure on. I think Jordan Lewis was close to getting dropped one game, and then he responded by having 35 and 2. So that was another.
That's an answer.
That was another month.
That.
Another month in the VFL. But yeah, that third one, I think it was at Coburg. So I remember, emergency in the AFL. I'm playing out at Coburg. Not that I was thinking about it at the time, but I'm like, fuck, I've done my knee out at Coburg here. I don't really want to be playing here.
Beautiful part of the world.
Yeah, beautiful part of the world. The oval was in rough nick. I think there were 3 ACLs done that day.
Yeah,
that day.
Yeah, that day.
That's saying something.
Yeah,
surely.
I was a bit flat about that.
alarm bells going off at council.
Yeah, I think they needed to resurface that deck. I was adamant about it. But yeah, after surgery, Chris Fagan was there waiting, and Max Bailey was there. So another moment where I was probably inconsolable and uncontrollable with my emotion, and they were great. So I suppose that reflects the relationships that I had with my coaches and teammates there.
I want to. Oh, sorry.
Can I go one more
Yeah,
just
go,
on the
go.
connection piece? I know you spoke about doing that prezzo, but I think like when we're talking about transferable abilities and we're talking about connection and building connection, it's such a weird topic to talk about because some people are good at it naturally.
Yeah.
Some people are shit at it naturally, and a lot of people don't work on how they can connect better. And I think today's day and age, loneliness is rife.
Massive.
I'd say, and like false connection.
Yeah.
Like a bit like what you were speaking about, like guys checking in, but not really checking in. It's
Yeah.
just like, how you going? Good.
It's like
That's
hallway
it.
hellos.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Yeah, surface level.
Pointless conversations and
Yeah.
frankly a waste of fucking time. But for you being in that position so often, like tips and tricks, how to be the best connector you could possibly be.
I would say, I think once I nudged the team and the coaches about, hey, there's more to life than asking me about football and injuries. So I found those questions initially surface level, and I knew that it was coming from a good place. Don't get me wrong. How's your name? I'm like, okay, I know that you're somewhat asking
thoughts there.
a careful sort of question,
Yeah.
but are you really delving into what you could potentially be asking and getting to know me? You know, you've been here 8-10 years, and what you know about me is that I'm bloody good at running laps and can
good on your
swim
push
a little
bike.
bit, and I sweat a lot. And
You're sort of getting treated like a spare dick.
it's just a different timeline. It was a really rough way to build relationships. So I went out of my way to really try and start to get to know the players and the coaches, and I took that initiative. But that's my personality. I would still say I'm an introvert, but I went outside of my comfort zone and go, okay, well, maybe for me to stick around for another, I think I stick around for another 3 or 4 years after that, but maybe for me to stick around, I can contribute to this really amazing culture. Right, we were in an era and we held each other to account, performance-wise, but we also were really good characters, our squad. Maybe I can really contribute to that. So I started just to get to know players on a different level, ask about their families, their passions. I did classes with some of them after training, build relationships that way. Look, that doesn't come naturally to a lot of people. Didn't come naturally to me, but I felt like it was a two-way learning experience as well. So they learn about me, other than this injury-prone guy, and I really got to know them a lot better as well. So it was two-way.
So from that, do you think that for those maybe that do struggle that connection piece or finding a connection, asking the questions, do you think that's the
It's a
best
comfort,
starting point? Like being comfortable to just
it's a comfort zone
ask
thing.
a question.
100%, I reckon.
Yeah.
I think it's a comfort zone thing, and if you ask the first one, who knows where that conversation could end.
Yeah.
Like, you guys could be really compatible in a lot of areas, and you just didn't know because you're too scared to ask a question. One question. That doesn't have to be about football or injury.
Yeah.
It's like the age-old be interested in people to be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Spot on.
On a similar anecdote with less amazing depth, have you watched Fisk?
I have watched this.
It's quite funny.
Is that the Aussie show on Netflix?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I watched 1 or 2 episodes of that.
I didn't get through it fully.
I won't give it away. It's like my kind of humour.
Is that
Real
the
deal.
I
law
know.
firm?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
and
second your
she just
eyebrow
got,
raised there, I was like, you're going
she
somewhere.
just got like hired by
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah. So I won't. There's a bit in that happens that's quite funny, but it doesn't give anything away in the show. But it resonates with what you're saying. And that one of the characters who's like a semi-regular character in the first season pops back up again in the second season. And he just like midway through a conversation goes, "Would you like to get dinner with me? I think maybe we could connect." And she was like, "Oh no, that's weird." And he's like, "It's okay. Going to ask the question enough times. Eventually the door's going to open to somebody." And then he just turns to the next person and asks, "Would you be interested in getting dinner with me?" And it's just like that whole literally jumping off, take the first step. And
Well, I compare it to the amount of times on a footy field that we have to be uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
A lot of it doesn't come naturally to go back with the flow, even though we don't encourage it now. But to put your head over the footy knowing that you're going to get hit,
get smacked.
that is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Talking to someone and asking a question about their family or field, that's
Easy work.
that's nothing
Yeah.
compared to that.
It's amazing that it's sometimes more uncomfortable, particularly for men, to do stuff like that, where it's like physical pain and probably unnatural stuff.
Yeah.
It's easier to do that kind of stuff than it is to, have a real conversation about how you're going. And I think like we talk about vulnerability a lot on our show, but like it's a different type of vulnerability you go through when you've done 3, 4, 5, because like guys, your vulnerability isn't, not knowing what's coming next. It's like having to get through it again.
Yeah.
It's
Knowing
almost
what's
more
coming
daunting
next, yeah.
that you know what's there instead of it being like an explorative concept. It blows my mind having been with a few guys who have done whether it's ACL rehab or soft tissue rehabs, and just again and again and again. And like, I haven't spent much time in rehab. I've done a bit more time on, my mental health rehab than I have on my body. But even, like a 4-month stint that I did, I was a shambles for 95% of it. But I just figure if I was having more real conversations throughout that and actually telling people how you felt, like, one thing is you build your connection, but you draw on experience from other people as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're so unwilling to draw on other people's experience because it sounds like comparison sometimes. I think it has to be delivered the right way. Yeah. But I'm sure that, like, throughout a journey like yours, like especially a guy like Max Bailey, who went through a few, and like odds are stacked against a guy who's 210 centimeters doing an ACL as well. Yeah. But just the ability for an older player or an elder statesman to put their arm around and just be like, this is how it's going to be this time. And I don't know, make it all okay without, ensuring it's going to be okay.
Yeah, and you won't be able to have these conversations with every teammate as well. You just test the waters. Yeah. How you going? And you might actually give an in-depth answer. Well, you're struggling today. Like, can't get the mind right. Can't put one foot in front of the other, so I'm just not feeling it. And some will respond in a way that makes you feel like it's a safe space. Yeah. You go back to them next time. Yeah. And others won't, and that's okay. Because they've probably never experienced setbacks like that before as well. So there's definitely
someone opening up on that level.
Yeah, exactly. So there's two sides to it, but just being willing to have that conversation in the first place is a good step forward, I think.
Yeah, for sure. I want to touch on maybe one other aspect of your football career that has been or has got a lot of attention in probably in a negative light, to be fair. If you're willing to, I know you mentioned earlier you're an open book.
Open book, mate. Easy.
Post playing career, playing VFL. So post AFL career, playing at Collingwood for a few years there. Obviously, is where the connection to the club had established, and being an ex-AFL player probably opened up a couple of doors to the AFL program as well in that regard. I don't know, I'm just spitballing here, but ended up being a runner for the Pies. Yep. Was it for a couple of years?
It was. It was for 1 year, but then I returned to play VFL for the Pies. It was always part of my rehab. It was after my 4th knee. So it was always part of my rehab. I'm like, I've got to get the Ks in. Yeah. I was delisted, working in an office job and trying to run after hours, I suppose, get the Ks in, do my rehab after hours. So I did it during the 2018 season. Did it for maybe a third. And then I was like, I actually got the passion to play footy again for the Pies VFL. I'm signed up there. This has been great. I've been around footy. Like, I hated football for a while. After that 4th one, I was like, don't want to watch it on TV. Don't anything to do with it. It's just been really tumultuous for me. Yeah. So I actually started that first phase of the rehab to go off track a little bit. After my 4th, I actually went up to my rehab facilitator at the Pies and said, I want to snowboard. My bucket list is to go to Canada and I'm going to snowboard. So rehab's going to be based around that. Don't talk to me about football. That's what we're doing. Yeah. I've booked flights. I'm going in 6 months. So we actually did all the rehab based around snowboarding, which was fascinating.
Is that a physio's worst nightmare? Because I feel like snowboarding...
he was really trying to talk me out of it. But I already...
locked into a board. I already booked flights. Left, right and centre anyway.
I already booked flights, accommodation, everything. So I'm going.
Yeah, pressure's on.
You can help me or you don't have to. Otherwise, I'm doing it myself. I spoke to the surgeon. They're always a little bit more optimistic, saying you can do whatever you want. Yeah. So he said, I'm good to go. So that was a really fun experience. And then once I got back, still wasn't really interested in playing footy. Yeah. The Pies actually asked if I wanted to be a runner, and I grabbed that with both hands. And look, it was really good for my communication skills, leadership skills, for my business that I was trying to grow. The connections I made there, it was a fascinating experience. Then I returned to play football, played all right. And then we got knocked out of the VFL finals pretty quickly. And Bucks calls me, says, the boys want you back for the finals. Great. I was like, absolutely, thank you. Yeah. And that was sort of the pathway that it took. And then obviously grand final day happened. Any other questions?
So I want to dive into it a little bit. Obviously, like, Pies fans are notoriously either for you or against you. There's no in between. They're
Yeah.
Pretty down the barrel. They either hate you or they love you. And you were involved in quite a controversial moment in a grand final.
Yeah.
That at the time was portrayed as a defining factor in an outcome to some extent.
Yeah.
In which I can't remember who kicked the ball. It was a shank. It was a miss kick.
It was Tay Adams, I think, in the pocket.
Thanks, Taylor. Good on you, mate.
That's all right, mate.
It was a miss kick, right? Like he shanked it. It came off the side of his boot.
Yeah.
And it went in a direction that you happened to be all of a sudden thrust to being in the way.
Yeah.
And out of position based on where the play of the ball was. And I think was it Jaden Stevenson, maybe
Yeah.
you and he were in a position where
We definitely crossed paths.
it didn't allow for him to get a play on the ball, and it led down the line to a goal for the Eagles. Obviously, there's a huge outcry. There's a free kick. Oh, not a free kick. Sorry, it was because it was impact. But there was talk after the game about you being a reason
Yeah.
for them losing the grand final. I want to ask you kind of two parts to this question. One is I want to know like the immediate emotion, feeling, conversation that you had with anybody at that time on the ground, post-match sort of thing.
Yeah.
And two, what it was like maybe to all of a sudden have a target on your back from a crowd that everyone knows can get against you pretty quick. So maybe like instant, emotion, conversation, feeling.
Yeah. Open book. I'm more than happy to speak about this, actually. I think it's really good learning for a lot of people. And the Magpie supporter base are one-eyed as you get, so I wouldn't want them to change any other way. But I had a really good relationship with the Collingwood family in general. A lot of them actually invested a lot of time in getting to know me and my story through the Collingwood VFL. You know, I remember pre-game throughout the season when I was runner, I'd speak to the cheer squad, you know, get to know them, shake their hands. You know, the kids, I'd let them touch the footy, build connections that way with the supporter base. But yeah, that moment in the grand final, I'd say that was easily by far the biggest challenge of my life personally, because it's just so unique and specific, and it's not going to happen to many
There's no
people.
book on how to deal with it
Right?
either.
Like,
Many people in the world, where 100,000 are just going, it was you.
Yeah.
Right? And my initial response, because I still had to do my job for 2 quarters.
Yeah.
So I was like really frazzled, because I knew that, one, I put my hand up every day of the week, even though there's an aspect of it where I couldn't really do much about it. I was delivering a message out there, so I was like, oh, this ball's not coming here. No way.
Yeah.
I was out there giving a message to the fat side wing. I look up, I'm like, oh, that is coming right at me. Like, I think he's kicked it at me. So I've tried to just run in a direction. You get taught, if the ball's coming your way, you run in a direction. So I just happened to go in one direction, but cross paths with Jaden. So whether or not he could have got there is up to debate. But regardless, it was, you know, I do have some fault in that. I own that. And afterwards, the umpires just say, look, because I didn't give away a free kick or anything, but they just reminded me of saying, you need to try and stay away from the play. It wasn't a spray or anything. They just knew, oh, you actually were impeding a little bit. So I just acknowledged it. I was in a bit of shock, delivered the message, went to the bench, wide-eyed. I was like, oh.
Yeah, well.
Elliot, he's just kicked it from 52 straight through.
Yeah.
That was my bad, I think. But they were quick to just give me the next message, you know. Park that. Yeah. We need you to do something else.
Focus. Yeah.
So me focusing again was okay. It was always in the back of my mind, but there was a game to be played. So I think we were still up by 1 or 2 goals. And then the match ended, and I suppose that thought at the back of my mind went straight to the front of my mind. We lost by a point.
Yeah.
And clearly there was a moment, and I just was in shell shock. I remember during the presentation, I couldn't look at anyone. I was just looking at the ground. So I don't remember really anything post the result grand final, because I was with the staff and the players. We're all sitting on the ground. They're all getting their medallions. And I'm just staring at the ground. I really filthy on myself. I felt like I let the side down, let the team down. And then we're going down the race. Sorry, I started getting really emotional, and I started hearing the abuse from the fans then, and that was even before I looked at my phone, and that was just something completely different. All the coaches and some of the players were consoling me, saying, well, "What's even happening? Like, what's going on?" And I said, "Oh, that moment." And then they started, like, they were really pumping the replay on the television, and talking about it on the radio. And
the person goes out the window.
Yeah, and there was just a lot of blame factor. Like, I remember BT's comments, and like I still remember them quite vividly. And I know that they're just doing their job. But like you're saying, Stocky, there's a human element there that they just disregarded altogether. I don't hold them to any sort of bad taste or anything like that.
I do.
But it is, it was a lot. So I don't think they realised they were adding fuel to the fire, right? So I was really shitty on myself. But there was no blame from the coaches and the players.
Yeah.
Bucks did a great job.
There's quite significant footage of him hugging and having like a one-on-one with you.
You could see that
after
I was
match.
just like capitulating.
Yeah.
Like I was just blaming myself. I was real, and I like to think I'm mentally strong, but that was just all walls are down, vulnerable. I don't give a shit. The TV sees me or anything. I'm really down in the dumps here to a point where I was a little bit selfish. Like I shouldn't have maybe gotten that upset. Maybe take myself away. But the coaches and the players were really supportive in that facet. But it took me a long time to get over that. More so because, social media is a platform where there's just no filter. So straight after the game, you best believe that there were thousands of these direct messages, right? And I've never had that before. So I just opened every single one of them, right? Read them because I just want to face them. Like, I don't know. That's my approach. I wouldn't recommend it to everyone because there was some bloody brutal stuff in there. Like, what's your address? I want to send you a noose. Wishing cancer on my family so my bloodline just stops. It's just like, how can you like think about this stuff on the spot and send it to someone, right? And that's just the real small stuff. And I was really glad I was able to go on open mic and like explain, like, hey, look, I'm human, and these people that are keyboard warriors. Sending that stuff actually does have an effect on people. And I think, I'm not sure if it was the case, but it was sort of before the time where people stood up for others on social media.
Yeah, it was.
Right?
Yeah,
so now there's like a retweet and a little caption going, hey, let's just sort of like support this guy, like back off. I just was on my own, on my own to the nth degree, right? And I had great support from family, Collingwood Football Club, the team and the sports staff, and some of my really close friends. But I don't think I handled that moment, I suppose, mentally, emotionally very well. I was basically 2 weeks blinds down in my apartment. I just didn't want to see anyone. Yeah. I was horrified. Like I didn't want to, and I was still getting these messages for weeks and weeks. Right. So I was like, this is a lot. Like I know I made a mistake, but I'm human. I don't think I deserve to die. It's like, but I suppose I got out of that hole eventually. Because I needed to move forward in life. I had a dog to raise, a business to run, and I slowly started getting that, I suppose, strong mentality back that I just got to keep pushing forward. At the time, I think it was 27, 28, so still a lot of life left in me. I couldn't let these people sort of impact me too much, but like some of those people were my old schoolmates, people I played footy with when I was younger, like people that I knew. They're the ones that I really got pissed off with the most. And then, like afterwards, because I took everything on the chin, did radio interviews the week after. I was happy to do it. I was like, yep, ask me all the questions you want. I'll get it off my chest, and then you don't have to talk to me anymore. Otherwise, they'll just keep peppering me. Like Herald Sun, hey, we want to do an article. Let us talk to you. All these radios, SEN, we want to talk to you. Let you know how I feel. I suppose I was able to get my voice out a little bit. Yeah. But I didn't want sympathy or anything. I just wanted to, face it on, move on, and then sort of heal in my own time. Again, I'm a person that's very comfortable being on my own. So those thoughts, even though I was on my own, were a little bit harder to get over though. I remember the Western Australian, and I don't know if they're a half-serious newspaper, but they had me back page as the Norm Smith medalist, which was amazing. It was funny at the time, I suppose, to some, but I was like, they're really like...
It's a cheap shot.
Yeah, and it's a choice. They've made a choice to go, hey...
Notorious for missing the mark.
Yeah. they've made a choice to go, hey, go after this bloke. He's actually responsible for absolutely everything in that grand final. So I'm like, oh. But yeah, like I said, I suppose I was able to reflect, and open mic was probably the first time that I was able to really share my side of the story, other than probably now, like a little bit more in depth. But yeah, another challenge overcome.
The spanner in that the bit that gets me, I suppose, like obviously past friends or past teammates messaging who's shit house. But when like people that are in the media who have played the game and know, you know, like a missed kick can lead to one thing, or, you know how the ball bounces, and when they're coming out and taking pot shots, I feel like there's another level on that. Like I feel like that's where you go, come on, mate. Like you're
I don't know if it was a pot shot. I just remember like their way of handling that moment, and I know that they're just doing their job, so they're seeing it as they would have saw it. But could they have maybe,
mate, geez, surely
I
they
don't
go
know, after the game?
I love how accepting your attitude is of their behaviour, and like some people laugh at me for being so aggro at some of the headlines these guys pump up, but they know well and truly like what they're saying.
Yeah, absolutely.
You and I,
they made a choice. Like they could have easily gone, oh, that was a nothing moment, you know, and then that be that.
but like you would know as well, like when you get interviewed, you're fully aware that you could create a headline.
Yeah, they can spin.
Yeah. But also, if they ask you a question, like more often than not, you know kind of what they're going for. So, and these guys have more media training than any of us do, because they're, you know, they're there for 120 minutes. Like we're just there for a 5-minute interview. But to throw all that out the window and then go, you know what, fuck it, I'm going to blast this. Just like lack of human compassion, like just anything that makes footy good goes out the window, because you're doing it either for personal gain of the quote going everywhere, or because adding fuel to the fire is just good for your media career. And neither of those sit very well with me.
No, that's fair enough.
And I understand that. Like my personality in general is that I'm not gonna dwell on those moments too much. Like I could really like have sat on that and held a grudge and be like, you know, right? It's like, but there's other things to move on to. But I think in a way, hopefully that moment was a really good learning experience for a lot of people. Those that send DMs, you know, hang on, calm down. Media in general. Well, hopefully now we sort of handle it a little bit better. I don't know if they do, Stock. I tend to stay away from reading those articles or paying too much attention to social media in general. But hopefully there's a little bit more training around that. I know that my support post at that moment wasn't great from a social media platform, and you know what we could have done as an AFL community a little bit more. Like the AFL PR didn't really hear from him. Not that I was expecting it, but like that's a prime moment where I'm an ex-player, current VFL player, AFL staff is getting absolutely absolutely bashed.
Probably should be expecting it, really.
That was like a reflecting moment for me. I was like, I
think that's changed a bit now. And I hope you don't mind me saying, but I think you might have been sort of the inflection point for that.
Because I hope I was.
A catalyst for change, man. Like
a little bit. Because I remember
we fucked up.
That was the year before, or the year I got drafted. And then I remember the year after. And even like, we played you in a VFL game, middle of that year or something like that. And Josh Fraser was our VFL coach at the time, who had a bit of experience with the Collingwood boys. And he made me go and tag you in that game. And I got thrown around.
Run with.
Didn't run with him at all.
So yeah, it's good.
But I still remember really vividly in the warm-up of that game, and Fraser was just like, nothing about it.
Yeah, right.
Leave it out.
Yeah, that's off the card.
Yeah. And I think a little bit was because I was prone to throwing shit out there that I shouldn't, but also just because there's a wider acceptance from most of the good guys in the game. And I think there are either more of those now, or more people, you know, want to save their bacon a little bit. But I think it's getting to the stage where more and more, like, people who aren't willing to just accept that footballers are human are sort of, you know, you're really getting some bite back. And I know it's a lot more demonstrative when it's racism or something like that, but I think we're slowly and like painfully slowly coming to the realization that the people on the screen are human beings.
Yeah.
Because it's a bit like like draft night and stuff, and you analyze these players and compare them to someone else, but you never really go into like who they are. It's just like a photo of them, and this is what they're going to be, and there's no real story behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I suspect that would have been the same with you, where your reputation's being like this resolute character, who worked his ass off through 4 ACLs at the time, and all of that gets thrown out the window for what?
Spot on, and that's probably one of the factors that hurt me the most. So I absolutely embraced my journey to that point. Had so many different vantage points of an AFL career, right? VFL, rehab, AFL games. No runner. I'm like, so many different, and respected on all fronts. I'd like to back myself in saying that most people would say good things about me, and if there's people that don't like me, I'd try and make amends.
Yeah.
I don't really know what I would have done. But that moment, and there was fuel to the fire. I had a lot of people hate me who didn't even know me.
Yeah.
Like, did not know me at all. Knew me for a moment and thought I was the worst person on earth. I was just like, fuck, that really like hurt me, and because, like you were saying, so I had all these challenges. I wouldn't say many would be able to handle a lot of it. But I was able to push forward, and then this one I just didn't see coming at all. Like, I didn't plan for this. Not that I planned for the other ones, but injuries are part of an AFL career, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But this sort of challenge or hurdle in life, because it wasn't just a football challenge. It was
Well, it's a personal
how am I
dig,
going to
right?
move on
Yeah.
in life? Because there's 100,000 Collingwood supporters that live all over Melbourne, and I feel like all of them hate me at the moment. How am I going to move on? So I'm really happy that I was able to in the end. And look, my perspective on life hasn't really changed at all, to be honest. I'm still really grateful for the opportunities that I have, even though I've added to more knee reconstructions. But I think hopefully I've left a really good imprint on the game of footy, even though my career in essence was maybe the definition of something that you don't want to have, but maybe the example of what you can make the most out of.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I mean?
I love that. That's a very beautifully said flashback.
Did you
point.
find just like on that moment, did you find, having been so good at being alone for such a long period of time, did you find that you learned a lot about your actual mental health? Like, I don't mean to say you wouldn't have had a challenge, but I doubt you would have had, as fierce a challenge as that. And being someone who's quite comfortable being alone,
Yeah.
like every bit in what you might have thought was your toolkit at that stage to get yourself feeling really good, because you're gonna have shit days, you're gonna have good days.
Yeah.
But did everything sort of go out the window and you have to rebuild from that?
Yeah. I think I'm a believer of the toolkit being ever evolving.
Yeah.
Because every challenge is different, right? So you might have a little strategy, and I'm big on mental health, just like you, Stock. So I put a lot of time into it, especially when I was young. Maybe after my second knee rec, I started seeing help outside of the football club and even within the football club in terms of psychs. And yeah, you get like this toolkit that they say, and I probably realised that, this toolkit doesn't necessarily work for this challenge, but you're allowed to have multiple strategies put aside. I suppose in that moment with the grand final, I didn't really have the strategy for that. So it just took me ages to figure out, okay, look, I'm alone, I'm comfortable, but right now I probably don't need to be alone. So after a couple of weeks, I probably realised I'm not getting any better. So I lived with my parents for a couple of weeks and shut down that way. That way they were able to really change my mindset about, just everyday living. You know what I mean? Or how am I going to help them with everyday life admin today? Or how are they going to help me with work? So little things like that. Even though it's only really little, it was definitely helping my mental at that time. A distraction in the best of ways, I think.
Are they your go-tos now for in terms of life challenges, professional challenges? Are your folks still your go-to?
Yeah.
And do you have what's your other support network like?
Yeah, and it's not so much having the conversation with my folks. So I would more have conversations with my really close-knit friends. I'm friendly with many, really close with very few, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, my family, I use them as I suppose a strategy, because I know for a fact that if they can see body language on me, that they can change the subject and just completely take away what I'm struggling on, in this case football. So we'll just do something completely different. I don't know, every time I go to mum's or go to dad's, it's just be something other than football, which is great. It's all I need, even just for an hour. And then I can go back, feel refreshed, reset, try and go again. Yeah.
It's a good answer. And I'm gathering to some extent your dog would be in that network, that support network, right?
Yeah,
Like,
Coda, absolutely.
dogs are incredible in terms of even picking up emotion. I feel like they know when you're feeling down. They'll come and give you a cuddle. And
Yeah, I've got an anxiety dog, and I'm the anxiety dog for it.
Oh,
I love that.
bouncing off each other.
Yeah,
I love that.
Sometimes
have you
the
had,
worst
sorry
way.
to change the subject, have you had Alex Johnson?
Yeah, we've had AJ,
Yeah.
and I've been
Yeah. So
hustling
he's
him
got,
about
he's,
a border collie catch up as well.
He's got a dog, and his
Yeah.
is, I'm pretty sure his is an Aussie Shepherd.
Aussie,
maybe,
yeah.
and named Coda.
Yeah.
So
There's something in the
remember,
maybe in the grass.
I remember when
in
he
the-
told me, I'm like, mate, you can't have that dog and name it Coda. Like, my Aussie Shepherd's Coda, and it's 5 years old. So
Yeah.
I've told you
And
about
he still
it.
did it.
Yeah, I've told you about it for years. He goes, no, I just thought about it. I'm like, mate, that's some subconscious stuff. So
Good idea. I
so
really like the name. Coda.
keep a hold over it. But going back to, I suppose, dog therapy, yeah, it was almost innate. Like Coda, I remember Coda when I'd come home from surgery, would lay her head on my knee and my bandages every time.
Wow.
It was fascinating, right? Almost try and warm me up. And she was
Yeah.
only like a little puppy then.
So cool.
But I'd always think that she'd be great as a therapy dog, like a dog that goes to the hospital and plays with kids or those that are struggling in the hospital beds. Because she's so gentle. Like she'd walk up to someone knowing if they're upset or not. So I'm not sure how they do it. She still does it now. Like if Dad's watching the footy and he over celebrates or gets angry, she's right over, sits in between his lap trying to calm him down. It's amazing. But yeah, very lucky to have her. She's 9 years old now. Yeah, blessed. Hopefully she's got another 9 in her.
Yeah. My dog reacts completely differently whenever you get dragged and I go, oh, come on. He just runs away.
No, it's not drag, rotation.
No, rotations. Yes.
Rotation.
I'm kidding.
Bit of both,
I'm
mate.
kidding,
Bit of
I'm
both.
kidding.
I'll be honest.
I love you too. We're kind of getting towards the end of the convo, mate. I want
Yeah,
to
mate, it's been a pleasure.
touch on two things. One, life art outside of footy. You mentioned you've got your own business.
Yep.
You're going to give that one a plug quickly.
Yep, Fortitude Finance. So I have my own mortgage broking business. So I hope I help people get home loans or restructure their home loans so that
See
their
you soon.
I think I know someone.
mortgage repayments
Might be in the
and all that
market.
are all in check. But yeah, I really enjoy it. I think I can transfer a lot of the skills that I learnt in football, funnily enough, in terms of empathy and building connection and relationships and having really strong understanding of your clients and seeing what's best for them on a finance sort of view. So I'll just work by myself, little boutique mortgage broker on the road, mobile. If you need me, I'm there.
Is that what inspires you now? Like at the moment in your current life setting or life chapter, is that the help and the support of you know, offering that to someone, assisting someone tick off their life goals? Is that what's inspiring you at the moment?
I get it. I get a really good thrill and a rewarding feeling out of that. Going back a little bit, football is a great avenue in terms of paying for your uni. So even when I was out, I was very much delving into study. So I've got my Bachelor of Management, majoring in property and real estate. So initially I wanted to be a real estate agent. I had a really good strong passion in real estate. But I probably realised that I still wanted to keep my weekends if I wanted to delve into sport again. So I just moved the goalposts a little bit.
Yeah.
How can I use this, I suppose, property knowledge to my best degree? So now I just help people trying to buy homes, and it's pretty seamless.
Yeah.
And then outside of that, I'd balance that out with coaching girls footy at Caulfield Grammar. And
Successfully.
yeah,
I hear as
successfully.
well.
We are a strong side. And yeah, part of the Adelaide recruiting team now as well.
Yeah.
So enjoy it.
So you got a few hats on, and yeah, I think that's really important as well, is to not narrow yourself onto one focus constantly. I think it's really important to have a couple of hats. You know, you've joined us recently with this, so you know that's another hat to your already big hat cupboard.
Yeah. Oh, I just think holistically, like whether it makes you a better rounded person, you know, you can be the judge of that.
Yeah.
For whoever it is you're talking about. But I think more than anything, it helps my performance. You know, that's my one focus at the moment. I suspect with you, everything you do outside of your work is to help your work.
It's all about balance, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's how I viewed it, life balance. And I was talking before about different vantage points in football. Well, my footy career is still going, but just has taken maybe a right turn, and I'm really enjoying it, which is good.
I love that. Okay, I've got one more question. Do you have one more? It's more of a challenge than a question.
I can go with the challenge.
You can as well.
No,
Go with
as
the
in
challenge.
go with the
Yeah,
challenge.
okay. Yeah. Well, it's part and parcel, right? So, are you familiar with the Resilience Project,
Yes.
guys?
Yes.
So there's
Hugh.
Huey Van Kylenberg and Rack Martin Heppel, who
Yep.
is not really as front facing as Hugh is, but Rack Martin came to my school. Part of the work he does in schools is he gives a speech to the staff, gives a speech to the parents, and then does his thing with the kids. And he spoke to the staff the first time I met him about this simple thing he does as a male. Like one of the things that he thinks is the best part of his role model ability is modeling behaviors that he thinks are really important. And one of them is saying "I love you" to his friends.
Yep.
As men, traditionally, we don't do that. That shook me. That blew my mind. I was like, oh, okay, yeah. I thought I would say that, but I realised very quickly it was after a couple of beers or down the pub sort of
Way
setup.
combo.
Yeah, exactly. One, are you an I love you man? Do you say I love you? Do you tell your mates you love them?
Yeah. Especially that close knit. Yeah. They're like brothers to me. So
Yeah.
I've got no issue in saying that. Is that the challenge?
Well,
Shout out.
I wasn't talking to you, Siri. The second,
Siri, I love you.
yeah, came out very quick. The challenge part of that is, would you be comfortable / willing to either A, pick up your phone and give a mate a call and just sort of give them a bit of loving and tell them why you love them right now, or B, would you be willing / comfortable with staring down the barrel and doing the same thing rather than calling them?
I'll do the barrel
Yep.
because they might not answer, so that might be a
that's
fail.
okay.
Which one am
Ollie
I?
man,
That
this
one?
one.
Yeah.
So straight down
can
the
you
barrel.
Hear me all right? Tyrone Bean, I love you, my brother. I'm seeing you this weekend. I think you bring out the best in everyone that you've brought into your life, and I'm very privileged that you've welcomed me into yours. I think your ability to connect to really good people is really rare, and I just love you, brother. And I'm really looking forward to this weekend, and I can't wait to continue to grow our bond together. Cheers.
That was seamless. That was so
Easy?
easy. Was easy for you, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm seeing him this week.
Yeah.
I saw there was a bit of a challenge there, but he's one that comes to mind easily as well.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and that was awesome. Thank you for jumping on that. It's really nice. I know a lot of guests we've had on that we've, I guess, put that challenge to speak straight away after about the uncomfortable aspect of it, get the sweat. You know, it's like, oh, you're right. I don't do that.
Yeah.
I should do that, but I don't. So I know for me personally, I picked up the phone the first time and I was sweating. I'm a sweater, and that set me off. I was changed.
Never
shirt.
seen him in a light shirt.
Yeah.
The microphone was just getting dripped on.
Yeah, mate, it was disgusting. Anyway, but yeah, no, I really appreciate that, mate. I think it's
You're right, mate.
it's really important as men to be able to do that. You know, I'm a teacher, and I talk to my students all the time about love and emotion and being upset, and I think it's a really big part of me as a teacher, but also as a person and a friend. I know you when we had you as a guest, I don't even know if we
We
did. Did you? You left a voicemail.
No, I
you barreled.
did it and then told the person. So
That's right.
I spoke about Nick Caulfield.
Yeah, that's right.
Was really front of mind for me, but it was like when we talk about having those kind of conversations, like they're rare, they're kind of weird sometimes because there's no set way to do it.
Yeah.
I think I've found, like, particularly with the young boys coming through, like I'm just trying to normalize conversations like that. Like if I love what you're doing and I love who you are, I'm just going to tell you about it.
You should keep doing that though. If you can be an advocate for that space.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah,
A lot of these, especially males, very foreign to that concept. So I love that it's been taught at school, taught to the new ones. Because I remember when I went to school and was new at the football club,
yeah. Don't know.
it was not happening.
None of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
So
Big time.
winds of change. That's good.
Haven't they? Yeah.
forcing people to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
That's it.
Awesome.
I'm sure that's a plug line somewhere for someone. So apologies, but no, I'm kidding. Last one. I don't know if you've got anything else you want to round out, but we can't have these conversations without, I guess, asking you if there was anyone you would recommend us reach out to and to have a sit down conversation.
Yeah, I suppose it would be that guy that I just said I love you to. It's Tyrone Bean. So
Yeah.
Alex Johnson knows him really well.
I reckon I
as
know.
well.
him.
Yep. He's he's got many friends within a lot of communities, but he's a proud Indigenous man, First Nations.
That's where I know him.
Amazing teacher, but even better person. Probably one of the best blokes I know. So
Yeah,
he would be amazing for this sort of platform. I think I highly recommend him.
brilliant. Well, we'll
And he'll
chat
jump on
about
it for sure. Yeah.
getting in touch. We'll connect the dots following this one, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in, mate, and working with us. I know we toed and froed on the date a couple of
all right.
times, mate, and life's busy, but we make time for the important conversations, and we're really grateful that you were able to and willing to come and
Easy, mate.
work with us on this one.
Pleasure's all mine. Thank you.
Thank
No,
you.
completely
Stocks.
agree. Like I knew a little bit about your story, but probably didn't know the kind of attitude you have, and that's kind of why we encourage these chats sometimes, because I know I probably wouldn't have ever had a conversation with you about some of this stuff in depth, and now I feel like I can, whether it's over a beer or something like that, have a conversation with you about it. But more than anything, try and encourage people to be more comfortable having conversations about people's real lives, not what they do for work and all that other shit that you can sort of take at a passing glance. Really getting to know people and get to know their story, their hardship, what they've got to give. That's what I've taken out of this, mate. You're an incredible example of resilience, but more than anything, just a really ripping person.
Thank you. Same to you, boys. Cheers.
Okay, that one. Stock's been a pleasure, mate. Love the purple.
Thank you.
Good choice.
Love the purple.
I think I'm going to have to stick with button-ups now.
Yeah. I might. We'll be chatting. Appreciate it. Ollie, love your work, mate. For everyone listening, do you want to do it?
If I knew it off by heart, I would.
Come on.
This has been the Men of Words podcast, where little conversations
Can make the biggest difference.
Yes.
That's why Muff gets paid the big bucks.
I was hoping for you to finish that off.
Do you know what? We don't actually have to do it because it's in the outro music.
This is the Men of Words podcast, where the little conversations can make the biggest differences.